Good morning or good afternoon. It's Matt Coleman, the co-founder of Magnify World. Our company, as you know, champions new innovations in the AR and VR space. And today we have a very special guest from Columbia, Missouri, called Sarah Hill, the CEO and chief storyteller, she calls herself, from a company called Helium. They are doing some amazing things. They have created a tool for self-management of anxiety and stress. And I know it uses brain waves and heart rates and everything else. And people are probably going, well, what actually is this? It sounds incredible. Sarah, welcome. How are you today?
I'm great. So appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about Helium, about some of the people who are making the products, and also to nerd out with you a little bit about the virtual augmented reality industry and where it might be taking us.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your background. You're an award-winning journalist from CBS and NBC and I think, various other affiliates. What are you, how did you get into this? And I know you've probably traveled the world with your, journalism, your roles. But what made you get into the augmented reality and virtuality business 5 years ago?
Yeah, so I was a journalist for more than 20 years, and essentially VR and AR are media. So this is a medium that's very familiar to me. It's just like video, except it's all around you and you have the ability to interact with it and do different things with it. So I was a television journalist in the mid-Missouri area for many years, covered a lot of trauma, rapes, murders, homicides. We went in with the trauma teams in the aftermath of the tsunami in Sri Lanka and in Indonesia. And to make a long story short, my story is not unique. There are thousands of people who have similar stories of experiencing some kind of secondary trauma, or maybe it is a workplace that wasn't conducive to their needs and they ultimately got burned out. And so I was among that. One day out of the blue, I started having panic attacks and didn't want to take a medication. It made me feel odd. And so I was looking for some drugless solutions, found neurofeedback, biofeedback, and make a long story short, developed Helium for me, as well as the millions of people out there who also struggle with anxiety. And back in the day, in 29 to 2011, we were live streaming virtual tours to a group of terminally ill and aging World War II veterans who weren't able to physically travel to see the memorials in Washington, D.C. And we had been using mobile devices at first in the early days of these programs. And they were virtual tours for people who couldn't go on what's called an honor flight. Some of your viewers might be familiar with that program. It's a free program that takes veterans on physical flights to see their memorials. But the problem with that is that not everyone is able to physically travel. And so we started experimenting with live streaming, then using Google Glass and augmented reality first. We got into XR via augmented reality first. And then when Google pulled the Glass program, we needed an alternative, which was VR. So then we started creating VR tours to allow the veterans to feel like they were in the memorial, even though they were in their own veterans' home. But what we found in those thousands of tours was that VR was affecting their physiology. They weren't just watching these experiences, they were feeling them. So we did biometric testing, full 19-channel EEG cap, brain scans, looking at their heart rate, giving mood score surveys to see how is this content impacting the individual. And can we add additional elements to it that have the ability to make it even more therapeutic? And the answer to those questions is yes. Helium is a drugless solution for stress that quickly downshifts the nervous system, a self-management tool, a self-awareness tool, and a reminder that our thoughts have power.
That's amazing. And congratulations on, coming this far and making this a really interesting tool. I mean, anxiety and stress, it must be what percentage of the population would you say has that? Is it 90% or is it 100%?
Well, right now in the aftermath of COVID, we're experiencing what I call the greater pandemic. Dr. Tarrant, who is our co-founder, talks about this being the stress Olympics, right? And not everyone has trained for it. And so calls to mental health hotlines, sadly, are doubling. We're seeing suicides among healthcare workers who are serving on the front lines of COVID. And this is a real problem. So it's not just a little stress. Stress, even before COVID, was a $300 billion profit and people killer, responsible for up to 60% of all illness and disease. And so you have that compounded with the uncertainty, the mass joblessness, and mass financial stress. And we really have a mental health emergency right now. And not everyone wants or is at a level where they feel like they have all of the drugless solutions available to them. So Helium is a drugless way, either in virtual reality goggles or in your augmented reality device. You plug in your wearable and you're able to control these virtual worlds.
Yeah, that's great. It's I mean, who are your clients at the moment? I know you started with, one of what you call the Honor Everywhere program for veterans, which is what you described earlier on here. I mean, who are you selling to? Because you're promoting that you have a streaming network and channel as well, which I assume they can choose from. What is the experience for a consumer, and can they download the app from the Steam store or the Oculus store? How does all that work? What's the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I want to be clear, the content for the veterans, we're not selling that. That's a free program. That's our company's social purpose. So you can go to iOS Android store right now, download an AR Honor Everywhere AR portal experience, and just on your mobile device, be in a portal or in virtual reality goggles. That program is absolutely free for the veterans and always will remain that way. Helium's product is sold into areas of acute situational or confined stress, anything that sucks that you have to go through, from a workday, a corporate wellness program, a blood clinic. The Red Cross is using Helium to escape from the needle stick of a blood donation, to a hospital for compassion fatigue for their nurses and physicians, to a school to help students develop their mind-body connection. Because stress is so pervasive and responsible for 6 of the leading causes of death, it is a layer in a variety of different enterprises. And so we horizontally market this product to a variety of different, not only enterprises, but consumers. And we seed that engagement at the enterprise level. Their employees, the people who frequent the blood clinic or the school or the spa, have the ability to discover Helium for home use. And then you can go to our e-commerce site right now and get Helium right now. We have consumer subscriptions, and we also have enterprise licenses as well. And you get not only the content, but you also get content that's updated every 60 days. We add a new piece of content. You get access to Heal You, which is a video curriculum that teaches you about neuromeditation and about the different patterns of your brain and how you have the ability to control those patterns with what you think about, and also the ability to track your progress over time. So you can see not only when you were using Helium, but how you've progressed in different feeling states for calm or focus, which are 2 of the brain pattern protocols that we use as inputs in order to power these experiences, almost like you would control a bike in a way. So when you're in Helium, you have the ability to live change, much like you would shift gears on a 10-speed bicycle. I don't think they call it a 10-speed bicycle anymore. I'm dating myself, but back in the day when we rode a 10-speed, you would shift down to a different gear. It's the same thing with Helium. You're using your mind as a muscle, and then you are shifting and have the ability to control it in a different way. It's an exercise, not just physical fitness, but mental fitness in a new reality.
And are the experiences, how many experiences do you have? And does the brain waves and heart rates actually trigger something automatically when you're at a certain level of activity. You can tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's about 30 pieces of content on the platform, combining not only just virtual reality, but augmented reality as well. And in augmented reality, just on your mobile device, you can go through a portal and then be inside some of our immersive experiences. You press a button on your phone and then you're taken to picturesque landscapes. And then in AR or VR, you can power it with a headband. So this is a BrainLink Light EEG headband. We're hardware agnostic, so any wearable eventually will have the capabilities to power Helium. But for right now, we have two, which is the BrainLink Light. It has 3 sensors in there. Obviously, this is not a diagnostic tool and not meant to tell you whether or not you have a certain condition. It's a self-awareness tool. And think of this like a remote control that happens to be listening to your brain patterns and using that as a power source. And then a smartwatch, an Apple Watch, can in iOS and iPhones can use that as a power source in order to control the screen. And ultimately, how are you supposed to learn to control your stress if you don't have the ability to see it or interact with it? And that's, what was helpful for me, that I could see my feelings. I could understand that they have power, that I had the ability to control it. And not only that, but I could train myself, train my body's own electricity, if you will, in order to feel or think a different way to control the screen. And it's feedback. I mean, ultimately, we as humans, we love feedback. When we don't get feedback, we self-destruct, right? So, it only makes sense that in these stress management programs, we should get that feedback. And unlike traditional meditation, this is neuromeditation, but it's not close your eyes and meditate. It's open your eyes, become more self-aware of your emotions, and not just a calming experience, but actually a training tool that you can use to strengthen the healing powers that you have inside yourself.
I'm a fan of foot spas, actually. When I say a foot spa, it's not the usual foot spa. It's an electronic foot spa where you drop an electronic node into warm water, you put your feet in it, and then you turn on a bunch of frequencies that power the frequency through your body. Now, I know this.
That's my kind of foot spa. I gotta try it.
So I try and regularly use, I probably should do it. I was doing it every 2 days, but maybe once a week, because I have a machine. They're about $3,000 or $4,000. I can't remember, something like that. But you can pump the Schumann frequency through your body, through the water. And I find, depending on my stress levels or tiredness, it gives me a lot of energy and gives me a good sleep. But there's also lots of different benefits for skin and eyes and all sorts of benefits, so they say. But I find it's more of a power up for me. How would your experience sort of compare to something as bizarre as I'm talking about? Because a lot of people probably wouldn't believe me anyway if they hadn't tried it. But I mean, what are some of the other interesting benefits that you can get out of this?
Yeah, and I don't think it's bizarre at all. We as humans aren't just seeking that calm and relaxation, but also that motivation. Right? There are some times when you want to rev up your nervous system. So in the Helium app, it's not all piano calming music and soft voices with picturesque landscapes. It's also get your heart pumping music that's meant to be cross training of sorts. So just like you would cross train in physical fitness with some kind of friction or barrier, we use music in some of them as that barrier. So you'll hear some EDM music on our platform, and you have to quiet your mind while you're listening to this EDM music and seeing these flowers go all the way around the room. Same thing with focus. You are hearing some rhythms there, but yet you have to focus in order to make more of the flowers go around the room. So I totally hear you, and I'm a fan of not just that relaxation, but for those moods when you need to get up and get going in the morning, that it's not just downshifting your nervous system, but also, getting ready to go in the morning to start your day.
Yeah, so that was another question I was going to say. So this can be used at any time during the day. So if you want a 10-minute break and get up from your desk and go sit outside or whatever you want to do, you can do this any time of the day, night, morning, right? Is there any recommendations that you have on that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a walk in the park for those times when you can't take a walk in the park. You might liken it to a warm bath or something like that, but you can't take a warm bath at work, or, you're in a parking lot and upset because someone took your parking spot. I mean, there are all kinds of indications where sometimes you just can't go to the park. The pandemic is, one example. We can't go to the beach, but we can bring the beach to them, and they can be in somewhere else, and in a drugless way, have a non-harmful coping mechanism for the things in life that suck that we all have to go through.
And tell us about some of your other team members in the company. I think you mentioned your chief scientist or developer. What sort of technologies have they built around the wireless communication between the Apple Watch or anything else you've developed here? Is that, what have you? How difficult was that to achieve the transformation of what you actually see versus your body waves?
Yeah, so we have a great team. Matter of fact, they're within earshot, so they'll have to come over here and get a little socially distanced wave in here. So Wendy is our COO.
Wendy, how are you?
We've got Kyle Perry and Alyssa Stahl as well. Alyssa, designer, developer. She's working on a Jaguar that you can control with your biometric information and by changing the colors of it in augmented reality. This is Kyle, and he has done a lot of work in the video space, been all over the world, Congo, China, the Netherlands, capturing virtual and augmented reality in some of these picturesque landscapes. So we have a really phenomenal team. Dr. Tarrant as well. He is our chief scientist, and our brain algorithms are based on his important work. He wrote the book on neuromeditation. It's currently on Amazon if you'd like to check it out, about meditations to rewire your brain. So certainly not just me, we have a really talented crew, and we're growing, because this is an area of a mental health emergency. We are continuing to look for individuals, like-minded individuals like us, who see value in drugless solutions and providing people some virtual peace.
So talking about rewiring your brain, it's. I assume that that's a fascinating subject, and I'd love to read his book. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. How often do you use, Helium yourself and the team? Obviously, you're in and out of testing, of course, but do you have like a routine that you get up at 6 a.m. every morning and you meditate for 30 minutes or 15 minutes, or what do you recommend, and what's working for you?
Yeah, so I use Helium primarily at night. That's one of the things early on in my journalism career that I struggled with was sleep. I couldn't shift out of that negative narrative that was in my head, and I would have ruminating thoughts at night that I couldn't quiet. Maybe there's some of your viewers who have the ability to that strikes a chord with them. And so, for me, the ability to slip inside the goggles, or even without a headband, to know, what I need to think about in order to make that line go up and make the fireflies go, the flowers bloom, the snow flurries
Yeah.
fly is valuable for me as a training tool. So think of Helium like training wheels, and that certainly in an acute situation, you can be inside the goggles and it instantly downshifts your nervous system. But you also have that training expertise that even without the hardware or being inside the software, when you're in a stressful situation, you can think about what you needed to emotionally recall. You can go back to the beach.
Yeah.
And because the brain believes what it sees, and because we're combining not only visuals with story, and story is how we learn. If it's couched in the realm of a story, it is far more likely to be remembered and recalled than as if we just gave you the
Yeah.
facts. So we're combining all of these powerful tools as well as adding an additional feedback loop. And for me, I see a bright future for Helium, not only for anxiety, but for sleep. And that's the bulk of the way that I use our product is that I can, instantly be somewhere else in a matter of minutes. And it places something pleasant in my head before I lay my head on the pillow.
And what's your thoughts on the industry at large? I mean, if you recall 5 years ago, they were saying that this industry is going to be, industry sector was going to blossom to a $250 billion market in all sectors, of course. And there's been a bit of a adjustment over the last couple of years, but, there's been a real resurgence now with COVID. It's one of the industries that is on the uplift. I mean, how have you found feedback and sales over the last few months and inquiries? Has that increased for you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, this is the mental health emergency, the stress Olympics. So calls to hotlines have doubled, and interest in our product has increased as well. If you go to our blog on our website, you'll see some of those more concrete examples about how people are using our product. Not only with their daughter who was having a panic attack and she was looking for a way to self-manage that, but with how therapists are using it to allow their clients to be someplace else, to a chronic pain patient who uses Helium to try to help him self-manage his heart rate and his blood pressure. So certainly an uptick in all areas of the company, and also too social media interaction. Every month we get a chart of how our metrics are evolving on web and social and things like that. And you are seeing a resurgence and an interest in things like meditation. I wouldn't call our product traditional meditation. Certainly it's more like training and like mental fitness, but mental health hygiene is highly important right now. Just as you would wash your hands, this allows you to get that dirt, wash the dirt out of your brain, and eliminate that toxicity that you've had in your mind from watching that negative narrative that's
Yeah.
playing on our social media feeds. It's playing in our heads from the media, and it's not the media's fault. They have to report that information to keep you safe, so that you know who to vote for, so that to avoid a tornado. What their job is crucially important. And I say that because I was one of them. So, I know that you have to give that negativity. But if all you're feeding yourself is that negative fiber, much like eating a diet of crap would make you sick, it's the same way, and it will circumvent and short circuit your nervous system. So we as consumers of media really have to be cognizant about what we're placing into our bodies, what we're consuming with our eyes, and to make sure that we do have some things that have positive fiber in it, via your media diet, immersive media diet, something like Helium. So the digital diet is real, and a lot of people think the way that they manage their digital diet is just by, turning off their Facebook feed or their Twitter,
Mm.
or not listening to the news. But that's not, your diet, your physical diet, your food diet. If you did that, you would not have success. You have to have some fruits and vegetables. That's what helium is. Things that can be nutrients to your mind in a way to, grow,
Yeah.
grow in your well-being, grow in your self-awareness of your own ability to control your virtual reality and your real reality.
And tell us, what are some of the top few metrics that your experience gives the user? Is there a benchmark against certain criteria, or is it more of the feeling, or what's your thoughts on that?
So we have 3 published studies: Frontiers in Psychology, Journal of Neuroregulation, the Scholarly Journal of Science and of Psychology and Behavioral Science, showing that helium not only slowed the fast activity in the brain or reduced anxiety quickly in as little as 4 minutes, but also some interesting research about an area of the brain called gamma asymmetry, which is associated with feelings of positivity, love, joy, appreciation. And so I'm not the scientist, I'm the technologist, so I can just tell you what Dr. Tarrant is able to convey about the research that's out there. But there's an area in your brain and in existing research called your frontal gamma leans to the left and the right. The more that your frontal gamma leans to the right, that in research has been associated with depression and feelings of negativity. And they found the more it leans to the left has been associated with more openness and approach more motivations and positivity. So that's, a metric that we look for in the brain scans, and some that are also tracked in future research studies as well. We have 2 different protocols on the platform: calm and focus. So if you quiet your mind, the environment responds. If you increase your focus, the virtual environment responds. And then the other metric is heart rate. So you lower your heart rate. It's beats per minute. We're working on getting HRV incorporated into the platform, but you lower your heart rate. The environment rewards you with something happening inside the screen. So for instance, an experience that Alyssa is working on right now with a jaguar, it's a colorful jaguar. It starts out in the room kind of pacing, it's agitated, it's clicking a ball, it goes up in, kind of a pounce stance. And as you quiet your mind, as your brain patterns slow, or as you slow your heart rate, that feisty jaguar suddenly softens. His stance slows. He comes up next to you. He sits down and he licks his paw. So giving you, a story, a visual reminder that your stress animal, that's you. You are that jaguar. And, if you calm yourself, you're in a more comfortable situation.
Well, great example. Thanks for sharing that with us. I wanted to go back to your latest blog on your LinkedIn page, which I was reading this morning, which is all around 360 video projection. And it's actually a favorite subject of mine, as I was saying before the call. I love the VR or 360 dome environments, and at Magnify World, we've had a special sponsor following us around the world and setting up domes and blowing everybody away, to be honest. It was our biggest attraction in the expo space by a country mile. Actually, we had lines out the doors for this. So, you can get a lot of psychedelic experiences, you can get a lot of educational experiences, all sorts, space programs. But, tell us more about how you could actually be in another environment without a headset. And then I want to talk about, obviously, those red glasses you've got beside you in a minute.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
What was the 360 projection all about?
Yeah, so we are really excited to partner with BroomX. BROOMX. It is a phenomenal company doing really fascinating things with hardware in the 360 projector space. So you're in a room And even without goggles, which, obviously goggles are a concern for some enterprises during COVID. But inside this room, you were able to experience Helium, and you're inside a 360 projector. So it's projecting all around you. And the experience that I shared on our social media sites was of a cave. We have an experience, one of my favorite ones. It's called Awake the Light. And you start out in a very dark place, and it's a beautiful metaphor about stress and how, you're working to try to get to the light and get out of that cave and dark areas of your light. And then if you're wearing a wearable, an EEG headband or a smartwatch, you have the ability to make that light go through you. And as the experience goes along, that light moves out from you into the world, and you're drawn to the light. You're awakened by the light. But in the room, you are a spectator, and you feel like you are, being put into those spaces. So we like to collaborate with a lot of other technologists, hardware manufacturers, designers, and developers. We have another piece in our office. It's a vibration chair by Theta Wellness Group. And it has the ability, when you're using Helium, the base goes through your body as vibrations on a vibration mat. So, images are just one input. Biometrics are just one input. There's all this whole new world with haptics that I'm excited to play with and learn how we can tell unique stories with some of that technology.
And could one day, do you see that a user could commission their own visual experience? And would you ever consider that in the future? I think that might be an interesting model. It might be an expensive model, but for the user, but it could be an interesting model for you.
Yeah, that's possible right now. So we just finished an experience for an individual who wanted the ability to be inside the paintings that he painted in the 2D world. So, a painting like this, he wanted the ability to be inside his painting. And so we recreated that experience and allowed him to step inside his painting and, be all the way around it and see it in a very unique way. So that technology already exists. About 5 years ago, I had said to an interviewer, I would love the ability to go back to my childhood home. I would love the ability to show them a picture and say, can you, take me back to, my home? And it's no longer around anymore. It was destroyed in a tornado, but I have fond memories of that. Yeah. And sure enough, Facebook, I think it was Facebook, announced that they were working on it, or is in R&D with some kind of technology that allows you to quickly scan a 2D image, and then you can instantly be inside that environment. And so you see that a lot. Companies are already taking people back to see the places, elderly individuals where they've grown up. And that has therapeutic value for them to go back to those places, much like music therapy is reminiscent and conjures up some unique memories in Alzheimer's patients. But the tools that are coming down the pike, as I'm just, really excited about in the EEG sector, in the heart rate sector, all the things that we can measure that can then be personified, as something we can interact with and touch. It's really an exciting time to be a company creating in this space.
Yeah, no, it is. It certainly is. And now, look, I know I wanted to end on some comments. I know we touched on the education piece before with how, teachers are using this to calm themselves maybe in this new world and connecting with students. But tell us about the N-Real glasses you've got beside us, and can you put them on for a minute just to show the viewers what they are?
Yeah, these are N-Real glasses. They've got a Qualcomm chip in them. And it's just augmented reality that you don't have to have the ability to, you don't have to have a mobile device to hold up, right? It's not something that you have to look through, you're able to look through the glasses. And we're excited about these products because it's hands-free, right? And inside the glasses, you'll see some of the sensors that are in there. But Nreal's coming out with these, who knows what Apple is doing, coming out with AR glasses. And not only that, but the ability to be able to toggle between virtual reality and augmented reality. I mean, right now they're kind of separate devices, but all of these are converging into one. And you see that in the Quest. You know, when you're in the Quest and you tap the side of your headset, you're able to see the real world. So obviously that technology exists, and there's going to be one goggle that you can tap between the two. And that's one of the ways that we got ahead of the technology with that hardware, is that we are already positioned in both AR and VR as ambidextrous from a content platform, so that when that hardware comes out, we're already conversant in those spaces, and we already know how to tell stories in those spaces. So we've got the platform and the product ready to go to be able to toggle between those two. And we're just excited for the hardware to catch up with us. So hopefully in the next year or so, it will.
Well, Sarah, look, it's been fantastic speaking to you today, and congratulations on all your developments in the last 5 years. I think it's certainly something that most people should try. I mean, it's particularly now, you know, when people have got some spare time at home, they're not traveling in the cars. I know that the VR use and all the headsets actually are pretty hard to get these days because they're selling out. But I think, you know, amazing stories, and I thank you very much for sharing that. Would you have any last comments, and do you want to give your website a shout out, or where people can find out more about your product?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to our website at tryhelium.com, and helium is spelled HEAL like healing. But also encourage you to follow us on our social sites. So our Twitter, Helium XR, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, we're in all of those places. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We would love to know about how you're using our products, future ideas for our products, and how we can make them better. We also have a great blog that has some phenomenal use cases, and would love for you to try it. Once you go to the site, you get prompts to where you can download the app and subscribe. There's a free version that you can see how you're able to, some of the experiences look like, even without adding a wearable. So thank you for your time. My very best to you and to your viewers, and appreciate your interest in Helium.
Thanks very much, Sarah, and you have a great rest of the day.
You too. Bye-bye.